Project Diablo 2 Season 2 Transcendence has officially been announced. We're looking at a date of March 12th, 2021, so less than a month away. We're actually really close to 1,000 subs, which means I could finally monetize this channel. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing below, maybe giving the video a like and a comment. Let me know what your opinions are at the end of it. I'd really appreciate it. Probably the biggest change is the complete rework on the martial arts tree for the assassin. For people who don't already know, the way that vanilla assassin worked is that you had charge moves and finisher moves. So a charge move would level up, you could get up to 3 orbs, so you could use Fist of Fire 1, 2, and then 3. And then if you did an auto attack or a finisher move, it would dispel your orbs, reset you back down to 0, and do whatever effect your third stage charge said. So if you dispel it on charge 1, you only get a small effect. If you dispel it on charge 3, you get a big effect. That's how vanilla worked. It wasn't good enough because it basically meant that you did 3 normal attacks that do nothing other than your base damage, and then get an effect on your 4th attack. So not great, right? What PD2 has done is completely overhaul this entire system. So the two big changes are, first, as you're using charge abilities, you will get the effect on that attack. And not only that, but charge abilities and melee attacks and everything on this end, the finisher moves, all do splash damage and apply all applicable elemental abilities. So if you have a bunch of poison charms, you'll get poison on the splash while you're using a charge attack or a finisher attack. This is really big. But more importantly, how these things are going to interplay. The second really important idea is that all of your charges now go into a universal pool. They don't overwrite one another. So you can do Fist of Fire, then Blades of Ice, then Phoenix Strike. And each one will add to what stage, as Senpai calls it, what stage or stance you're in. So you start off on stage 1. When you use a charge attack, you will get the rank 1 charge effect of it and also get an orb. You can then change to a different charge attack. You will do the 2 orb effect of Blades of Ice and also get a second orb. The really big change here, though, is that when you use a third charge ability, you will get the 3 charge effect of that skill and then expel your orbs. So you no longer need a finisher to dispel what charges you have right now. We'll get into what finishers do, but think about everything that you could weave into one another here. You can start off with some fire damage, get an AoE frost effect, and then dispel with a huge frozen orb, or dispel with a huge chain lightning, or dispel with a huge poison effect from Cobra Strike, which is also changed. We'll get into that. I love this quote, so I'll go ahead and quote Senpai here. You can almost make your own Street Fighter combo, and that's what it really feels like. You can interweave all of these abilities together and make something purely unique to your exact build. Now, you can always just use one ability, right? You can make a Fire Sword that only uses Fists of Fire, and that's fine. You can make a Cold Sword that only uses Blades of Ice, and that's fine. You can make a dual elemental plus elemental skill build, you know, Frostburn, Ravenlore, Ormus Robe. I'm talking about wizard assassins here, and that's probably the coolest thing that's ever been said in Diablo 2 history. Now, I talked about finishers and the fact that they work differently. A finisher used to just release the charge that you're currently on, set you back to 0, and do a cool effect. The way finishers work now is, since your third charge is always expelled on your charge attack, meaning you don't have to use a finisher to get the ability, you'll only ever have 2 orbs, but it's going to remember the orbs that you have. So if I have a tier 1 Fist of Fire and a tier 2 Phoenix Strike, and then I use a finisher, I will get both of those abilities to proc, and then reset me back down to 0. So you're not going to get tier 3 effects out of a finisher anymore, but you can get these cool dual effects where you can specifically target things that you're trying to fight with different abilities. One of the skills that we specifically saw a rework for is Cobra Strike. Cobra Strike used to give you some life leech, then some mana leech, then some dual leech. Now, Cobra Strike has 3 brand new abilities. 1, it's going to do a teeth-like poison explosion out from you on its rank 1 charge. Its rank 2 charge is still going to do a dual leech in case you need that for the build or you want to weave that in with other combinations. And then the stage 3 effect is going to release a poison cloud like you would see from a choking gas or rancid gas potion. So the very large, very quickly expanding and then dissipating poison cloud. Things that we have gotten confirmation from is that these attacks are also going to fully carry all poison damage calculations from charms and other equipment. In addition to that, it's also going to carry your venom damage. We did get 3 other things that are important to note here. All of these abilities are going to work with Dagger because PD2 did change Claw Mastery to be Claw and Dagger Mastery, so you are going to be able to do your charge and finisher abilities with a Dagger, so you could rock a Dagger shield. We got the confirmation that traps are going to work with plus to elemental skill stats, so from facets and from items. So that's really big. We still didn't get any confirmation of whether or not they are going to fix whether traps work with minus enemy elemental resistances, but we did get the plus to elemental skill confirmation. We also got a vague hint that the Kixin is going to be revisited. Not exactly sure what that means specifically, we didn't get any details, but Senpai is quoted saying that, so I figured I'd include it here. Crafting changes. PD2 has already done so much to make crafting more viable versus how vanilla Diablo 2 worked with crafting, but they have destroyed all of that. Like, destroyed it. If you haven't seen my previous video, I'll put a card somewhere that talks about how crafting works and how crafting specifically works in PD2 and the bonkers items that you could make with crafting, but I wanted to capture everything that we currently know so that you can have this information. Auto mods for safety chest armor, so safety armor, now include a 10 to 20% PDR, physical damage reduction auto mod. That means early in the hardcore ladder, and for your mercenary, if you haven't come across a Leviathan or a Shaft Stop or even a Rock Fleece yet, you could just make a suit of safety armor, and boom, your mercenary, starting at very low level, has access to 20% PDR. This means that a lot of those builds that really rely on the mercenary being able to stay alive have access to that and are thus empowered by being able to reliably have their mercenary out, as well as a lot of hardcore builds that I know are basically looking for that stat and don't really need anything else until the end game. So that's huge already. Caster shields. Caster shields now roll with a 15 to 25% FCR variable and block chance. And start to think about some of the things that you can make. Paladin shields, that will roll 45 all res, that will have cast rate and increased block chance, and since it's a crafted weapon, be able to roll up to +2 to paladin skills. A necromancer shield, that can roll, that will have FCR on it and block chance, that can roll +2 to necromancer skills, that can roll with 3 staff mods, meaning you can get 3 +3 skills to various necromancer skills on a necromancer head shield. That's just an option now. And quite frankly, some of these items that we're going to be talking about and the potential for them are going to eclipse well-founded and very deeply entrenched best in slot items with the total potential, the endgame potential of some of these crafts. Probably one of the biggest craft changes is Castra helmets are now going to always roll with a flat 20% faster cast rate. Let me spell out some of the options that are available to you. You could craft a +2 to barbarian skills with 20 FCR, with +3 to bow, +3 to warcry, +3 to battle command. And I haven't even talked about the 3 other suffixes that can be on this helmet. All res, plus to strength index, plus to life, 3 sockets, or you could get another affix and then slam it with 3 sockets. Or you could get it, slam it with +1 to skills, and then puzzle box it for 2 sockets. Caster weapons. Caster weapons have as an auto mod, +1 to all skills, 15 to 25% faster cast rate. Now, not only does this drastically increase the power level in the mid game, something that is currently lacking in PD2, but let me explain a sorceress orb that you could get with this. The sorceress orb could roll +2 to sorceress skills, 45 FCR, +3 to energy shield, +3 to Meteor, +3 to Blizzard, and have All Res, and have Life and Mana, and you could then slam it with +1 all skills, and then puzzle box it for 2 sockets. So you now have +1 from the auto mod, +1 from the slam, +2 from the prefix roll, +3 from the staff mod. You have a +7 energy shield, +7 meteor, +7 blizzard, 45 FCR, sorceress orb. You could do this for sorceress orbs, you could do it for paladin scepters, you could do it for necromancer wands. You could make a +4 mind blast, +25 FCR claw, and have 2 of those. Other things that we saw and we know the values of: hit power amulet, and the hit power tree of crafting has been reworked to be much more focused on your ability to hit and survivability. So the hit power amulet is going to roll 150 to 250 AR and have flat 10 faster hit recovery, so that's great. That's now a melee specific oriented craftable amulet, which is really nice. And hit power weapons are going to have a variable -10 to -20% target defense, and they have added 55 to 80% ED roll. Now, the implications for blood, which was typically the crafted weapon that got enhanced damage, those numbers are going to have to go up to compensate, theoretically. But your hit power weapon is now going to give you better chance to hit and added damage, which means that maybe we're not only crafting blood weapons moving forward. Maybe we are crafting something like this so that you can interplay with your itemization differently, because your weapon itself is going to have -percentile defense. Now, for the crafting piece, they were really focused on bringing crafting or making it available in the early and mid game so that people could scale better into the late game, making progression easier. A big change for that is they're actually going to make flawless gems available starting in Act 4 Chaos. So that means by the time you're killing Diablo and also farming normal cows, you're going to be inundated with a much larger wealth of flawless gems, meaning you can start crafting faster and earlier. We're going to talk about some weapon specifics and then the total changes that they did with weapons, but right off the bat, all daggers now carry an auto mod of 20% Deadly Strike. 20% Deadly Strike means that 1 in 5 times you're going to double the melee damage that you deal as if you did a critical strike. All daggers now carry this. So white daggers that you make rune words out of are going to have an auto mod of 20% Deadly Strike. This is huge, and the second big change is that crossbows now carry -10 enemy physical resistance across the board. Big changes for melee weapons that Senpai went over. All melee weapons that are non-daggers are going up to a minimum range of 2. This means that when you're using something like a flail and a mace together, you will no longer be able to hit with the flail but be missing with the mace because they have different attack ranges. Everything is bumped up to a minimum of 2. Daggers and throwing weapons are bumped up from 0 to 1. So these are going to be more in line with something like using a mace from, Act 1 Charcy. They're going to have a minimum range of 1 for daggers and throwing weapons. All two-handed weapons, except for short staff, are now bumped up to a minimum of 3 range. This means the distance away that you can be when attacking a monster, with a lot of two-handers being bumped up to 4, where they were previously at 3. The other big change that's coming to melee weapons is how much bonus damage you're going to get based off of your stats for using them. So, for two-handed weapons, your two-handed swords, your mauls, you are now going to get a 110% bonus from your strength for using them. So you're going to get a 10% increase in damage based off of how many points you have in strength. And then for dual stat weapons, so something like a longsword that needs strength and dex, you're going to be getting 75% from your strength total, and they've added 75% from your dex total. The same goes for polearms in spears, any weapon that requires high strength and high dexterity. So this is going to pretty drastically bump up the damage for a lot of weapon bases that weren't seeing a lot of love because dexterity wasn't adding anything to their total damage. Project Diablo 2 is officially adding brand new items to the game. How do you get them? Well, they are these 5 items here. The art for the sword is from a different RPG. The helmet is actually a skin from Diablo 1. And then the armor, boots, and claw that you see here are all from a community artist by the name of Nefertiti. All very beautiful, absolutely fantastic art. You get these by killing DClone. Now, people farm DClone. You know, a lot of people made good economy in Season 1 farming DClone and selling Annies. But when they say extremely rare rewards, Senpai and team expect people to see maybe 1 or 2 of these in a season. Ever. The drop rates that they're currently calculating are 1 in 300 DClone kills might drop one of these. And then you obviously have the 1 in 5 of which item gets dropped. From what we understand about the items, they are extremely powerful. They are unique, so they're not necessarily just replacing best in slot with higher stats. They are all incredibly unique items. They do have stat rolls, but they also let us know that even if you got low stats on every single roll, the items would still be very good, as they put it. And it's not that they're game breaking, they are just incredibly strong in the niche that they fulfill. What does that mean? Well, it gave us one hint. The boots on screen right now have faster cast rate. They're going to be the first set of boots in Diablo 2 history that come with the stat faster cast rate. Just to give you an idea of what niche these items are going to be fulfilling. They are not account bound. You can sell them, you can trade them, you can give them to Charcy. You can slam them. I tried. Chatting with Senpai, you can slam these, and you can brick them. That's right. You can take that sword right there and turn that bad boy into a rare longsword. And now you've got one. So keep that in mind. You can slam them, you can brick them. They can be puzzle boxed. They are, looking at the drop rate, I think it's still a bit too high, quite frankly. I think there are people who are going to specifically make farming builds just to farm DClone just to see these things, so I'd like to see them be rarer. These are supposed to be like original World of Warcraft, Thunder Fury, Hand of Ragnaros, Anathema type items. You might see one a season, and that person might just have that forever. And you might not see another one for another season or 2. We'll see how often the items come up, and they were talking about the fact that they were willing to make them more scarce because of how cool the items are supposed to be to get. Like, these are supposed to be super chase, super rare, powerful, interesting, trophy case type items. But they are quoted as saying that they are more rare than Tyrael's might. And hopefully I'm not the first person to brick one, although I will gladly take the role of being that if that means I get to see one. So the next big change comes to Barbarian, specifically Whirlwind. A lot of people in Season 1 said that Whirlwind wasn't strong enough, and Senpai and team heard you all, and they took that feedback and they worked on it. The first 2 things are actually nerfs. One, Whirlwind will now work off a 5-frame attack speed. That is -1 from the 4-frame attack speed that it typically used to work on, so it's going to be a bit slower. And it's only going to hit 1 target instead of 2 targets per attack frame. Now, that doesn't really sound like they're making it better, but they've added 2 very important things. 1, Whirlwind now procs chance to cast. That's right. You can take a Destruction Phase Blade and a Wind Phase Blade, spin your way through a group of enemies, and get all of their procs to hit on every single attack frame. Barbs are just going to be screen vomit, and I'm so very excited for it. The second thing, which is actually much more important, is that Whirlwind attacks now deal melee splash damage. So this is something that was missing from Whirlwind before, but they've updated Whirlwind with the consideration of melee splash, so you're going to see a huge damage increase on a typical Whirlwind. Then you add in chance to cast procs, and you have a truly ridiculous sense of where Whirlwind is kind of going. Really important to note is that these Whirlwind changes do affect Runeword's Chaos, so if you make your Chaos Sin and you do Whirlwind, you are going to have your chance to cast procs, and you are going to have your melee splash. Obviously, that's not going to work with martial arts, because that's not how charge and finisher moves work, but for the Whirlwind Sin itself, for a melee Sin itself, it will function just as the new updated Barb Whirlwind also works. Simple change coming out for the Paladin, but something that a lot of people have been asking for, especially with the advent of Holy Bolt in Project Diablo 2. Fist of Heaven's Holy Bolts that discharge from around it now hit all monster types instead of just undead. That means that their damage will apply to every monster type in the game, meaning Fist of Heavens might be something other than a single target for a Holy Bolt to use when it comes up against Magic Immune. It's a great change. A lot of people have been asking for it. I'm really excited to see what happens with Fist of Heavens, but it's fairly simple. There's not too much to go into there. I will take this time to go over the PvP specific changes that PD2 is looking to implement. Right now, PvP doesn't really work. Too many skills are too powerful, especially at high level. So they're looking to implement PvP League and ladders hosted on a completely separate website. So that's something that's in development and will be available probably not for this season, but for later seasons. But they're looking to implement changes, i.e. a flat 50% reduction in skill damage across the board, specifically when used in PvP. So when a Mind Blast Assassin one-taps you, nowadays they'll be doing half of that damage, and maybe you have a chance to survive. They did also specifically talk about the fact that in addition to the global 50% reduction in damage only for PvP, they will be looking to scale back certain abilities that are quite frankly just too strong. And Senpai Something and team are looking for feedback on PvP, clips of PvP, clips showing skills being overpowered, so that they can get a better sense and really dial in on what needs to change to make PvP a viable and fun functionality in the community. Maps. What's changing for maps? Well, quite frankly, a lot's changing for maps. As people have seen, the team has reached out and invigorated a huge community swell of creating new maps for us to enjoy and for us to advance through moving forward into Season 2. What does that mean for us? We are going to have at least 10 different map settings moving forward. So including the 3 that already exist, at least 7 additional map types are going to be available in Season 2. The settings that we've seen are a Worldstone Keep style map, a Bloody Foothill style map, a Ice Cave style map, a Loot Ghislaine Oasis City type map, an Act 3 jungle that isn't the Act 3 kind of desecrated temple look that we have in Tier 1 maps. And these are just some of the examples that we were given per Senpai. There are 3 other small changes that I'll just go over very quickly. One, namely, Amazon-specific weapons are having their weapon speed increased, meaning they will attack faster. They're getting a -10 speed reduction across the board. So your spears are now just going to attack faster, making them more viable, and potentially increasing the types of builds that we're going to see moving forward. 2, all potion types now function like mana, health, and rejuve potions. They will go automatically to your belt. If you buy a thawing potion, it'll go to an open belt slot if you can. You can shift click to fill your belt with thawing potions. If you pick up an antidote potion off the ground, it'll automatically go to your belt if there's an open slot, so you don't have to go into your inventory to pick it up. The last change is that Dole runes are now going to have, as their affix in weapons, 25% enhanced damage. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, consider leaving a like and maybe subscribing to the channel if you enjoy my content. I'd love to get this content to you faster and more efficiently. And again, we're going for that 1,000 subscriber push so I can finally monetize this and make this part of my total life income. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I look forward to you in the next video.